This video is brought to you by Storyblocks. For a low-cost subscription to unlimited royalty-free assets for your next production, visit storyblocks.com/TedForbes. I'm going to do a little video today about excuses that photographers make that actually keep people from being successful at what they do. Now look, I am not pointing a finger at anyone in this video except myself because I have made most of these. And look, excuses are easy to make. It's really easy to come up with some reason that something isn't working and it couldn't possibly be your fault or my fault in my case. But then once you're able to let that go and look at things a little differently, you can usually overcome these things. So in this video, I want to talk about the top 5 excuses that photographers make that keep them from being successful. And we're going to talk about how to fix some of those. Excuse number 1, the social media blame game. The algorithms are all rigged. Instagram just rewards pictures of babes and saturated landscapes. Whenever I post, I just get 2 likes. What's the point? YouTubers suck. I mean, none of them can shoot. Waste of time. Rigged with bots. It's all just fake engagement. Okay, let's talk about this, and I think it breaks down into a couple different categories. First of all, why are you posting would be one of them. Are you doing it to be internet famous, or are you doing it to share your work? Are you trying to find an audience? Establishing that is going to give you a lot of direction, and it's also going to make it very clear that you don't have to have a massive audience to use social media well. Then I would ask, how often are you posting and how consistent are you about posting? Because it just kind of makes sense that if you're going to have success, you do need to show up. You might be surprised how many times I get asked that question, and then you go look at somebody's profile and they've got 3 images up that they posted 6 months ago, all on the same day, and they expected to see results. So it's going to be a little bit of work, and that's important to understand. And then there's, what are you posting? Are you just posting images that have no context around them, or are you also posting stories and video and all of the other tools that we have at our disposal? And this is really important because essentially, I think one of the really cool things about social media is it's a platform for getting to know your audience directly. Like, I'm talking to you right now, and you get to know me. My work is a little bit secondary to that because if you're just showing people images out of context, it gives them nothing. So are you doing behind the scenes? Are you talking to people about what's going on in the pictures? You know, there's a whole second level of storytelling that goes on top of the work. Excuse number 2, I don't want to shoot video. I'm a photographer. So I'm going to tell you about 2 different friends of mine that are both photographers. One had a studio that went out of business very sadly around 2010 or so, and one is working and very successful today. You probably know where I'm going with this. A couple years ago, I was having lunch with my friend who owned the photo studio, and we were talking about the good old days because it was a great place. A lot of really talented people worked there. It was really sad when they went out of business, and I'll never forget him telling me over lunch that if they had started to go into video, it probably would have been different. And the reason being, the technology was moving in that direction. The Canon 5D Mark II kind of was this amazing piece of equipment that wasn't supposed to do good video, but all of a sudden, photographers had this world of video at their disposal. And second of all, the ad agencies, the budgets, the people they were working for, having a commercial studio, they were looking to kind of downsize things, and they wanted to be able to get a kind of a one-stop shop from a studio, and that included video. It kind of blew my mind when he said that because this was a few years ago, but it makes total sense. The other friend I told you about, I actually was talking to him yesterday, and it came up in conversation. This individual shoots a lot of sports. He's an excellent sports photographer, and he does a lot of behind the scenes. I think he's really good at storytelling, and so this involves getting to know a baseball team and getting invited to practices per se, or let's say that you actually get to know an athlete one-on-one, and then you're able to get access of maybe this individual playing catch with his son. I'm working on a video with this guy. You're going to see it soon, don't worry. But one of the things that he said that really increased his range was the ability to do video, because a lot of times when you're doing these behind the scenes kind of things, there are no production cameras, and a lot of times they're like, oh wait, it'd be great if we had video for this, and all of a sudden that is something that adds to his repertoire. And so I think these are both examples that show us that if you really want to be successful, I think understanding how to embrace video as a medium, and just as not going to compete with photography necessarily, but it's going to help you communicate visually. This brings me to our sponsor today, who I want to mention, who are the awesome folks over at Storyblocks.com. Storyblocks has saved me on more than a few occasions when I need a shot and you have budget or time restraints that don't allow you to actually get it, usually time is the big one. They've got this massive extensive library and you can go find great shots in there, get exactly the right thing you need, and get it into your project. With a Storyblocks subscription, you get unlimited downloads of over 1 million stock assets so that you can test and try out as many high-res clips as you need for your projects. They also have a brand new tool called Maker, which launched in September. It's a no experience necessary video editor that is included in the unlimited all access plan. This is a really valuable resource for any content creator. They've got several different plans depending on how heavy you want to use it. They're all pretty affordable, and this is a great way to get access to some awesome stuff that you can use in your own productions. So head over to the link in the description to learn more. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to the folks at Storyblocks for sponsoring this episode of The Art of Photography. Excuse number 3, it's 2020 and I've been stuck at home and I would shoot, but there's nothing to shoot. Okay, this one is a tough one and it does take a lot of dedication to push through. So I get it, it's 2020. We've all been sitting at home a lot. It's not like previous years, and believe me, I used to travel at least once a month as of 2019, 2018, and so I understand it's hard to get inspired. The other thing that I feel like affects me the most is that I'm aware of all my surroundings, I'm aware of my neighborhood, I'm aware of my city. I've seen all those things, and I think one thing that helps a little bit is you have to understand how to see this through somebody else's eyes. So while I've seen everything and nothing is particularly surprising, impressive, or inspiring to me, it might be for someone else. And so how do you, this is a really bad pun, but how do you see your surroundings through a different lens? Maybe it requires a different lens. Use a focal length you're not used to. Try things that are new and try to find a new way to see your surroundings. There really is always something to shoot. For me, another thing that helps a lot is I come back around to composition fundamentals, and I go out with an exercise in mind that I'm actually trying to do this. I'm working with shapes, form, light, shadows, all those things, and then I try to figure out how to break the rules and throw those into reverse. When do I not want to use this? And that actually turns into some inspiration too, because you're not necessarily looking for people, places, or things to photograph. You're looking for concepts, ideas, and then if you're really bold, you can look for action. And by action, I mean how to tell a story and how to show something in context that happened, not something that is. If you can break from keeping your photography just nouns and turn it into verbs, if you know what I'm saying, your work will increase tenfold in the quality of what you're producing. Number 4 is a little different because it's not something you hear people say so much, but it's something that you see people do, and I'm very guilty of this, and it's called too much equipment. 2 years ago, I went with my friend Eric Rossi to Marfa, Texas. He flew all the way down here from the East Coast. We had planned this trip for a long time and I was really excited. So I packed 2 drones, I packed 4 cameras, 6 lenses, I packed something for video, I packed some point and shoots. I packed all this stuff, put it in the rental car. We drove all the way out there and I realized that I was shooting very little just because I had so many options. 1 camera, 1 lens. Sometimes that's all it takes, and it's better to get something than not get anything at all because you have too many options in front of you. And the final excuse that we all hear pretty much every day: wow, I could do this if I only had that new camera that just came out. Okay, look, I realize that I'm probably part of the problem that I'm describing here because we live in this world that is very commercially driven. In other words, as a photographer where you're looking for stuff online, you're going to see a lot of camera companies that are trying to sell you things, and that has always been the way that any camera company tries to sell you something. This is the magic bullet. This is the silver bullet you'll be able to do anything with. It's expensive, and you need it today because it's new. It's different than what you've got. And so that is the system that we perpetuate, and I do gear reviews on this channel, so I realize I'm probably part of that equation too, but I do want to make it clear, I don't believe that that is the case at all. In fact, the way I look at it is this. Sure, sometimes a new camera or a new lens or a new flash or something new in your bag can be kind of inspiring. It can make you want to go out and shoot. But I think it's important to say, though, never get those two things mixed up. Yes, tools enable us to do things. I've talked about this for years when it comes down to how much does your gear really matter. Well, sure, it's a tool for a job. You need a long lens if you need a telephoto lens. You're not going to be able to do it with a point and shoot or a wide angle, for instance. So if you need to get macro shots, you're going to need a macro lens. Now, do you need the latest and greatest and newest thing out there? Well, probably not, despite what people are going to try to sell you. The way you think of it is this. When you go to a museum, you buy a book, open it up, maybe you go to an art gallery, and you see photography that actually inspires you. I have to say, for me personally, sometimes I wonder technically how something might have been accomplished. It depends on what kind of photography we're talking about. But most of the time, when a great picture is presented in front of you, rarely do I sit there and think about what camera it was taken on, what lens it was taken on. Sometimes I might think, okay, that's interesting because it's a wide angle or 50. You could go into focal length, but I never think in that in terms of brands or what's available or what's new or what's on sale. And I think that that's really important to understand. You can go out and get really good stuff with equipment that you already own. Never let new gear be the reason that you're not actually taking pictures. I'm going to leave it there. I would love to know what you guys think, so drop me a comment below. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, later.